Hello, I'm Otto and welcome back to another Factorio video. Just kidding, this is the first one. This is the very first video I've ever made. You found it. So I'm going to be making a guide for 2.0 for Factorio 2.0 without the DLC. So before I get into some of the specifics, we are going to be making a seed at the end of this video, or showing the seed that we're going to be using in the settings. But before I get into that, like, how did I get into Factorio and what's my experience like in factory automation games? So at the end of 2021, I was looking for a new kind of game to play. I had been playing World of Warcraft for well over a decade, and I felt like, you know what, it's time for something new. It's time to move on. So I was browsing Steam, and I've always been obsessed with the cosmos, and like space and, you know, astrophysics and science fiction type stuff, aliens, whatever. So I was looking for a game that was maybe in that type of genre. I'd played, you know, different space-based games before, and you know, they were okay. So I was browsing, and I ended up finding this game, and I purchased Dyson Sphere program on December 25th, 2021. So I think there was a Steam summer sale going on, and I purchased Dyson Sphere on Christmas Day, and I just absolutely fell in love with the game. It was like playing Minecraft for the first time. Like, you just can't stop playing. It's so, you know, it's just loads of fun. And it didn't take me long to realize how complicated these games could be, and I really sucked at the game, and I didn't realize how bad I sucked at the game until I started looking up different guides. Like, I figured, you know, maybe other people do things differently, and wow. I did not realize how, like, nice and neat and tidy things could be, and didn't know much about, like, how to ratio and things like that. So I was using guides and just kind of following along what they were doing, and I was having a blast. So I was like, you know what, like, if there's this game, like there's got to be more games like this, right? So I started using the same content creators. I was just browsing to see, well, what other games are they playing. So on January 4th, January 4th next year, 2022, I was looking for a game that my wife and I could play together, and that's when I got Satisfactory. So a week and a half later, I purchased Satisfactory, and purchased it for my wife, and the two of us were playing together, and you know, we had loads of fun. We've played it many times since I bought it for us 3 years ago. So after we were playing, I had played Dyson Sphere program a few times. By this point, I think we hadn't even finished Satisfactory, but I was like, okay, after seeing, you know, a bunch of other guides, I'm like, it's time. So I purchased Factorio July 18th that year, 2022, 7 months later. And after getting into the game and using guides and kind of following what they were doing, I hated Factorio. I could not stand the game. It was way too complicated for me. I didn't understand the mechanics. Like, I just didn't know what was going on. There were things that I thought I was doing that were similar or the same as what these other people were doing, and they just, like, it just felt like lining things up was just too big of a pain. I didn't like it. So after 40 hours, I stopped playing Factorio. I didn't even beat the first playthrough. Thankfully, though, a couple months later, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go back and try it again. So I loaded up a new save, started playing again, and the seed that I used is the seed that we're going to be using, which I'll get into in a bit. So I played it again and I beat it, and I was like, okay, you know what? Like that one wasn't too bad. Like I did have to reference guides because, you know, I had to. There's a lot of things in this game. It's very complicated. So and then I played it a third time, and I used the exact same seed. And I think I've used this. I've probably played on this seed. I know it of at least 3 times. I played the second game that I played in Factorio, the third game that I played in Factorio, and the first time that I attempted mega basing was also on this seed. So yeah, fast forward to today, and I've got 2,300 hours in the game. I've been having a blast ever since, and to be honest, I think it was how complicated the game was that actually has kept me in it for so long. So if you're the type of person that you're like, wow, this game is not for me, you know what, give it a try. Like, you would be surprised. Like, once you start learning everything, like this, it's an incredible game. So why am I making a guide? So I decided that I should make a guide for 2.0, and the reason why is because I know that there are a lot of content creators out there that do Factorio content, and most of them don't want to make a guide for new players. Like, this is not a new game. This game is like, I don't know, like 10 years old. The DLC, the Space Age expansion, has been out for, I don't know, like 6 months at this point. So, you know, a lot of people are trying to get their whatever kind of content they can based off of Space Age, which is where most of the players are. But I was like, you know what, if there are new players out there, like, they deserve something new. They deserve something that's more current. So there have been some changes between Factorio 1.0 and Factorio 2.0, and it's not that many. Like, if you use those old guides, you would still be fine. There's nothing wrong with those guides. But every now and then something would be just different enough, like it was for me watching. Like, whatever I was placing was just different enough that even though I couldn't make sense of why this was wrong, just enough has changed for Factorio 2.0 that if you were to follow those guides, there would be many points where you would be at least a little confused. You'd be like, wait, like this, why he's researching this thing, why can't I research this thing? This thing requires certain ingredients, why doesn't it require those ingredients now? Like, I set my builds up to have these materials coming in, and this stuff just doesn't work. Like, what is going on? What do you mean? What is this purple inserter? I don't have that one. You know, there's different things, and we'll get into a lot of that. So, I also feel like there's maybe a few different things that I could do to kind of make it a little more interesting. So what am I gonna be doing? So as of this video, if you're watching this, I have actually already, or by the time you see this, I will have actually already recorded the entire playthrough. I'm playing the entire thing and recording everything before I even post the first video. So why am I doing that? Because I would like to, like, if I reference anything that we're going to do in the future, I would like to show you the video footage of us doing that in the future. I want to show it within the context of this save. I don't want to just go to a different save and be like, oh, okay, look, yeah, this is what it's going to look like. Because every time you play through the game, you do things differently. It's never the exact same. Yeah, some things are pretty close. Like there's really no difference in some of the builds, but that, you know what, that's fine. But every now and then you do things a little bit different. You do things a little bit more efficient. You come up with different ways on your own. So I didn't want to use something that just wasn't going to match. I wanted to use exactly what we were going to do. So I don't know if it's maybe little video clips that I'll insert, or maybe I'll have a screenshot in the corner or on the side of the final build that we're doing, or, you know, something like that. But I wanted to be able to have stuff from the future within this save. So what are the pros and cons of that? Well, the pros are kind of obvious. Like, you'll be able to maybe see, like, what's the direction that we're going in. Like, why are we doing this? Like, is there, you know, you'll be able to see the final product as we are building it. There you go. So what are the cons? So the cons of doing it this way, there's really only one con. So the biggest con of doing it this way is that if you have feedback for things that I'm doing, I won't be able to immediately use that feedback in future videos. Like, they're made. They're like, but that's not to say that I don't want that feedback. I do want that feedback. And you know, if you have any comments or questions, you can always, you know, ask a question in the comment section. So, and I will definitely try my best to answer all of them. So would I recommend buying the DLC now or wait? So for our playthrough, it doesn't matter if you do or don't have the DLC. There will be some changes between whether or not you have it or don't have it. Either way, the gameplay that we're going to have is going to be the same. It doesn't really matter if you have the DLC. There will be very specific points, though, that are ideal times to make that decision. So, you know, like I said, there are some differences between even just 2.0 Factorio and the DLC. A lot of those come in the way of the technologies that you research, the sciences that you do. The first example of that would be cliff explosives. So cliff explosives are something that you get after red and green sciences, which are the first two that we learn. And in the DLC, cliff explosives are not available until you leave the starting planet, leave Novice. That's just one example. Maybe the most notable difference is rockets. So in the base game, the goal is to launch a rocket, but in the DLC, since that's not the goal, they introduce that a lot earlier. So we go through, let's say it's like 6 or 7 sciences before we are launching rockets on Novice in 2.0. But in the DLC, you're going through like 3 or 4. And, you know, that's probably the point where I'll say, like, look, if you're getting into, like, if you want to get the DLC, like, now's the time. I think that's episode, I want to say 20, that's episode 23. Yes, that's episode 23. So I'll make that very, very clear. Like, if you're going to buy it, now's the best time. So there's going to be some sciences and things that, some researches that we will intentionally not be researching. And it'll be things that have moved in the DLC. So like I said, there's some technologies that have moved to different planets, and we will not be researching those. Cliff explosives is one, but that, you know, cliff explosives doesn't matter because we are not going to be playing with cliffs our first playthrough. Other examples, and if you're new to the game, you won't understand what I'm saying, but that's fine. Rank 3 modules are not available, but we do technically have to research 2 of the rank 3 modules in the 2.0 to launch a rocket, and those are the only things that are a little cheaty. Spidertrons, like there's a couple of things that have moved. I think the best power armor, I think, might be, I don't remember. I think that might be tied to Fulgore, but I can't remember off the top of my head for sure. But things like that, and you know, we'll go through those, and as they come up, I'll mention this is not available in the DLC. Okay, so let's get into the game. We're gonna make a seed, and I'm gonna show you the different settings that we will be using. So let's just go over a couple of things first. So if you haven't played the tutorial, that's fine. I'm gonna have an episode after this called, I'm just calling it episode 0.5. We're gonna go over some of the basics of the game, some of the concepts. We're gonna set up certain settings. We're gonna unlock our shortcut bar. So if you go to this normally you're just gonna go to free play and go to next. However, I do want to mention, I don't really use any of these. The only exception to that is we will be using Sandbox. Sandbox is basically, let's just call it, yeah, here, creative mode. We will be using Sandbox in episode 4. We will be using it in episode 20, I think it's 28 or 29. And then we will be using it, I think it's episode 28. And then we will be using it again in episodes 30 through 30, 31, 32, 33, and 34. I think we're gonna have 5 episodes for trains, and it's way more difficult to set up blueprints for trains, but episodes 30 to 34, I believe, we are gonna be setting up trains, and I'll explain why it's gonna be easier to do it that way when we get there. But for now, we're gonna go to free play. We're gonna hit next, and we are using the seed 979678324. And anytime you have a seed like this, or if you want to like preview what the map is gonna look like, this is what it is. So if you look here, this is the starting area, and every starting area at minimum, you're always gonna start near a body of water. You will always have your basics, which are iron, copper, stone, and coal. These will always be very, very close to your starting area. Let's go over some of this. So these are different settings for different types of worlds you could use. Rich resources just increases this is the density of the ore patches that are in the world. Marathon increases the technology cost, so it multiplies the technology cost by 4. We will get into that later. Back to resources. Death World it just makes the game a lot more difficult. You'll see the biters. Whew. These are the bad guys. Death World Marathon is a Death World with Marathon, increased cost, and rough biters. Like, I've never really played a Death World before. Rail World is probably one of the most interesting of all of minus default. Like, we're going to be playing on default settings. Rail World is interesting because it greatly reduces the frequency. And I'll adjust the slider so you can see exactly what's going on. But for now, the frequency is the rate at which, not the rate, it's just how many patches are available in proximity. So the farther out this slider goes, the less you see on the map. And what this does is it encourages trains, it encourages rails. So we're going to be on default settings. So let's talk about the sliders, and we're only going to be focusing on iron ore for the sake of showing this. So you can see there's a patch here, 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 your starting patch here, and here. So we have 6 on the map right now. So if you change the richness, none of these patches changed, but their density is way bigger. This is 6 times bigger. 600% is way more materials. The size, well, that should be obvious. They just explode in size. So this is the most fun one in my opinion, because you need a certain amount of miners to be able to fill belts, and this just really helps you do that. It is still kind of cheaty in a way, because even though it is increasing the size, and that's not that big of a deal, increasing the size also does basically add more materials. Like both the richness and the size are going to give you more materials than intended. And then frequency, as you can see, once we do this, there's just like 20 on the map. There's a bunch of iron now. So if you were to increase everything, let's just kind of show how insane this is. Yeah. I would argue that this isn't a lot of fun, and the reason why is because now you're building on top of patches. You have instant access to everything. You don't need trains. You don't ever need to tap more than the one oil patch that you have. Uranium is super anyways. We're just gonna revert all of these. So since I've played on this sea before, I do know that there are a couple of things that become quite pain points. Let's just put it that way. So we're going to be bumping up stone, and we're going to be bumping up coal. You know what? We're just going to bump the size up of all 4 of the base just slightly, and that's all we're doing for these settings. So going into terrain, we will be turning cliffs off. You can see that these sections here, these are cliffs, and they are a complete pain to work around, especially if you're a new player. Like, you need to be able to build the way that you think that you need to be able to build this early in the game. So we're going to be removing cliffs. I do sometimes play with cliffs on. It's really irritating, but you know what? It's part of the game. It's like the biters. Like, they can be an annoyance, but it's part of the game. So I play with biters on, even though it's just kind of busy work sometimes. Once you learn to take on the biters, it's no big deal to deal with them. So we're going to be turning off cliffs. Yay, they're gone. We're also going to be changing the elevation. So this is novice elevation. We are going to be using lakes elevation. So you can see a bunch of lakes just popped up. We are also, and this is still our starting area, we are also going to be changing the scale. So our water scale is going to be 300%, and our coverage, which you can see, we're going to jump up to 150%. The water coverage is bigger. So these are the settings that we're going to be using for the terrain. Now let's go to enemy settings. So you can turn the frequency and the size up. That's like death mode. Death world, not death mode. It is basically death mode. Death world settings. So as a new player, there are a couple of things that, like, if you don't have certain settings adjusted, you're going to be getting attacked by these biters super fast. So because of that, we're going to increase the starting size to 200%. Some of these biter nests, there's one up here, there's 2 down here, did get removed. So yeah, we're just going to 200%. That gives us a little bit more of a starting area buffer before we dive into, like, we will end up attacking these guys first. These are going to be the first ones that get in our way. Also, as a new player, the biters do expand and they get stronger over time, and the expansion aspect is something that's pretty difficult to deal with as a new player. So we will be disabling this. Now all of our achievements will be like, this does not disable your achievements. Your achievements will still be fine. There are a few things that will disable your achievements, and none of the things that we do will be disabling achievements. Let's see, in advanced, there's nothing that we're going to change here. The pollution stuff is fine. The multiplier is fine. Eventually I will end up playing a save that has, like, I don't know, a 10 times multiplier on technology, I think. We'll see. I don't know. But for now, we're just baseline Factorio 2.0. Okay, so I think that wraps up this video. And if you are a brand new player, then you definitely want to watch the next video, episode 0.5. We're gonna go over some of the basics and a couple of the keybinds, a couple of the mechanics. Like, even if you've played other factory games before, you definitely want to take a look at that if you've never played specifically Factorio. And you can always skip it, like, that's fine too. Like, any of the, like, there's no problem skipping most of the stuff. The format for my videos is I try to start every video explaining what we did in the past, the most recent video, and what we plan to do in this coming video. So that's my format. That's the end of this video, and thanks for watching.